Hi there, this is a quick demo on how I make my modelling chocolate. So modelling chocolate is my favourite medium to work with. It allows me to work very quickly and make very detailed sculptures, but the best thing about it is that the modelling chocolate, you can work back in on it, so it doesn't get to a point where it dries out and cracks. You can just hold your hand against it to warm it up and then you can reshape it. Really easy and really quick to make. Takes like a little bit of practice just getting used to how it should feel and what the texture is, and getting used to not holding it in your hands for too long. So unlike fondant that you can just keep in your hands for pretty much forever, modelling chocolate you've got to work with, then put it down, or work with and put it in the freezer. Me, I've got hands like hot irons, so I throw them in whatever I'm working on straight in the freezer and then bring it out again, work on it a bit more. But the best thing about it is you just don't have to wait for it to set up. It's just get it to temperature, cool it down, and it firms up nicely. So you can make some really super detailed things with it. So here's a topper that I did for my wife's birthday just a little while ago. So this is a Cruella de Vil. And you can see the detail in her coat and in the hair, and that's all just modelling chocolate. So that's all the same white modelling chocolate, even the black parts. So it's just been dyed with food dye. So here's one that I did recently for my mate's birthday. So this is the Marshmallow Man from the top of Ghostbusters cake, and that's Slimer. So you can see the amount of detail that you can get it's pretty full on. And here's my other favourite one. So this is my pirate lady from a little while ago, so she's quite big. Oop, her sword just fell down. But you can see the kind of detail. She's missing an eyebrow now, but again, modelling chocolate, I can just melt a little bit in my hands, roll that out and put it straight back on. So again, there's a lot more of her on my Facebook page. Yeah, she's a pretty nifty little sculpture. So now what I've done is measured out the modelling chocolate. Not modelling chocolate. I've measured out it's a mixture of the Nestle Baker's melts. So I use the Nestle Baker's melts because they're whiter than just regular eating chocolate, and I think there's a little bit of oil in them that basically gives you a smoother texture to model with. So I use a mixture of that and Cadbury's white chocolate. So Cadbury's Dream works really well, but the Cadbury's baking chocolate's actually pretty good. It's got a slightly higher percentage of cocoa butter in it than the Cadbury's eating chocolate does. So the Cadbury's baking chocolate I'm actually a big fan of. So when I'm making my modelling chocolate, I use a mixture of the half Nestle Baker's melts for the texture and half Cadbury baking chocolate or Cadbury Dream eating chocolate for the flavour, just because it tastes so much better than the Nestle. But yeah, the mixture of them works really well. If you use all Cadbury eating chocolate, the texture's still pretty good, but it's just one of those things where it's a little tiny bit more finicky. More of the oil tends to come out of the mixture. So I've melted this down already. Actually, I'll just pop it in the microwave for a few seconds more. The key to modelling chocolate is the temperature. So you've got to get, not the temperature, the ratios is more important, but you've got to get everything at a nice temperature. You never ever want to overheat anything. You want to have the corn syrup that you're going to be mixing in at slightly warmer than body temperature, and you want the chocolate to be just right. So the ratio that I use, and the ratios are super important, but the ratio that I use is 4.5 parts chocolate to 1 part corn syrup. Again, where's my corn syrup? You can use the expensive corn syrup if you want, so the Caro, but this is viciously expensive and really hard to get in Perth sometimes. So instead what I do is I go to my local Asian grocer, and I get this one, which is again $10 for 5 kilos, which is brilliant. And it works pretty much the same. So for this one, I weighed out, where is it, 1.244 kilos. So yeah, 1.2 kilos of chocolate, and that means that I've got to have 276 grams of this is the corn syrup. So I'm just going to heat that up in the microwave for 15 seconds. And it is a super fast thing to make. So once you've got your chocolate completely melted, give it a bit of a stir. Yep, that's the right temperature, and it's really just a case of dump it in and mix it up. Where most people go wrong with modelling chocolate, and where modelling chocolate fails, is people overmix it. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to mix this until it comes together. So it'll start to seize up, and just keep mixing. And you want to get as much of the chocolate. You can see it's starting to seize now, so you can see it's starting to get lumpy. And you want to get it as mixed as you can without beating it. So just folding that through. So at this point, if I was to continue mixing it much more, so I can see a couple of rivers of chocolate still in there. But yeah, at this point it's kind of dry, and if I mix that anymore, all of the oil is going to come out of the chocolate and I'm going to end up with a mess. So as quick as that, take a Ziploc bag. In fact, I'll do it in 2 of them. The reason for that is I'm generally impatient and in a hurry, so most people say leave this overnight, but I don't have time for that. So what I do is divide the mixture in half, and where are we? And press it flat and whack it in the freezer. So the freezer is your friend when you're making chocolate. Now, modelling chocolate. Now, if the oil does start to come out of your chocolate, don't worry about it. You don't throw the oil out, whatever you do, but get it into a bag like this, press it flat, and put it in the fridge or the freezer. I use the freezer just because, again, I'm impatient and I tend to use the modelling chocolate the same night that I'm making it. And then the other side. So you can see that whole mixing process took seconds. I wasn't beating it for ages, and it's just until all of the syrup and all of the chocolate as mixed as you can get it. So now just press that flat again, and if I lay that flat in the freezer, it will cure really, really quickly. So here we go. So it'll take about 5-10 minutes. Now when it's done, it comes up really, really hard, like that, and you're going to have to use your body heat or pop it in the microwave for a few seconds. It sounds weird that you've got to try and balance between rock solid and really cold. Let's see. Always wait for it to set at room temperature. Yeah, I used to always wait for it to set at room temperature, and I live in Perth. Room temperature here is often 28 to 30 degrees room temperature. Ain't never going to set my modelling chocolate for me. So I use the freezer now, it's just easier. So that'll just take a few seconds in there. So here's that same hard lump again. It's still really solid, and you can see that it's crumbly and it looks dry and it looks unpleasant. That's pretty much how it'll come out of the freezer as well. So it takes a lot of work to use your body weight and the heat from your hands to get it to go smooth again, but it's worth it. I tend to also make a very solid modelling chocolate mixture, so if you live in a cooler climate you'd add a lot more corn syrup, but I've just found the 4.5 chocolate to 1 part corn syrup works really well for me. Again, I've got really hot hands and I live in a house where the temperature is really hard to control, so that's really makes all the difference. So there you can see that's come smooth. Now, one of the interesting things, when it's fresh out of the freezer, so the first time that you have it out of the freezer, you're going to have lumps in it from when you mixed it, because you can only mix it so much before the oil starts to squeeze out. Sometimes it'll take a couple of cycles of having it go in the freezer, bring it back out, and then kneading it to get all of the lumps of chocolate gone, and to get all of the like lumps of fat that haven't quite mixed through to go through smoothly. And what you can do is just use your body weight and the heat from your thumb to kind of press out any little lumps of chocolate that you might find, because it's not possible to mix it completely smooth. After cycling it through the freezer a couple of times though, you end up with an incredible paste that you can just do just about anything with. So you can roll it very thin, it holds its shape perfectly straight away, and it's warm in the kitchen tonight, but even so you can see it behaves like plasticine, almost exactly like plasticine. So if you wanted something that was more structural, or you want to do a nice banner, you'd roll out like a long ribbon, make it to the shape you want, pop it in the freezer just to firm it up, and once it's firmed up it goes super solid. So you can see this is a sword that goes with the pirate. I can show you as well the hat from the pirate comes off, and you can see once it sets up it's just like holding, actually it's a little bit firmer than regular chocolate, so it comes up nicely. You can see even the fine detail on flowers. I've got 3 little flowers in there. Don't think you'll be able to see the purple flower, but yeah, all nice little flowers on the hat, the detail that it picks up. So modelling chocolate is brilliant. Sounds weird to use white modelling chocolate to make black, but it takes colour like nobody's business. So let's pop her hat back on. It's all good. Sorry. Yeah, it's just wonderful to work with. It's an incredible medium. I can show you colouring up some to go black very quickly. So that's that same lump that I had earlier. I'll just use a bit of black. Of course, I've picked a new one. So these are AmeriColor food gels. Just they're the ones that I use purely because they don't leak in the heat and in my cake cupboard. So here we go. So it's not a huge amount of colour. I will probably add more than that though. And yes, I should be using gloves, but I've run out of gloves at the moment. So I'm going to walk around with bright purple and black fingers for the next couple of days, but whatever. Used to it. So you get very deep colours from modelling chocolate with hardly any hardly any effort at all. So here we go. That's that one coming up. And I'll just add a little bit more. The best thing about the modelling chocolate is the amount of detail that you can get it to take. If you use an impression mat on it, you can get just incredible textures. So the colour will also continue to develop in modelling chocolate as well, and you don't have to use oil-based colours or anything like that. The water-based gel colours are perfectly fine. So there you can see, with not a lot of change to the texture or not a lot of trouble at all. I've got jet black modelling chocolate. That's quite warm now after I've been handling it. If I put that aside, it'll start to firm up on its own, or I can whack it in the microwave, put it in the freezer, and it'll come good. So I'll just wash my hands. I'll be back in a second. And clean up the surface here. So the nice thing about working with modelling chocolate is it's also a bit easier to clean up, which seems counterintuitive, but I think maybe it's the oil in it. So here we go, that's all done. I'll see how my going so far. So it's getting there, it's still starting to set up. It's gone a bit firmer on the edges, but it's still a little bit too leathery. That'll need just another 5 minutes or so, and then it'll be able to be kneaded for its first knead. So, yeah. Usually I can get a good modelling paste up and ready to go in about 5-10 minutes, just depending. If the mix has been particularly kind to me, I can do it just with the first time out of the freezer, and it comes together nicely. Otherwise, yeah, sometimes it just takes a couple of times in and out of the freezer. You can save it if the fat starts to come out of the modelling chocolate. It's a lot easier to save than you'd expect. It really is just a case of lay it flat in the bag, put it in the freezer, and take it back out. The fat will be solid. It'll be solid, but you can squeeze it back in with your thumb. Now, if you're doing structural work, or if you're doing something that you're going to have on display on a hot day, or you have hands that are really crazy hot, and you're working in a really hot environment, you can mix about a 1:5 ratio of fondant to modelling chocolate, and you get a really nice, still tastes and behaves like modelling chocolate, but it just gives you that much more time to work with it. So especially if you're making black fondant, black modelling chocolate, it just helps to absorb a little bit of the moisture from the colour, and it brings it together really nicely. It also makes it a bit easier to paint on the chocolate, because it's chocolate, it's fatty. It can be a little bit hard to shade in liquid colours over the actual chocolate. The chalks and the like luster dusts and things like that come up really nicely in the chocolate. You can just use heat. You dust it on lightly and then just hit it with a like a blowtorch from a distance, of course, and it's all good. So what am I going to use all that for? I'm just working on practice just for the fun of it. So a little bit like my pirate lady, she was just for the fun of it. But it's one of those things where best thing about modelling chocolate is it's reusable. So once you've got once it's been out for a week or so, definitely don't reuse it. But if you're just playing, put aside a piece of modelling chocolate to practice sculpting faces with. Once the face is completed, take a photo and then just smush it. So you can just munch it all back in together. So, yeah. So again, maybe just a little bit more of the kind of details that you can get. So these are texture mats on modelling chocolate. So you can see I've used an impression mat to get the texture on the materials. And you can get just some really incredible details. So yeah, Pirate Lady, she took ages to go. Ages to make. This one was made in about an hour and a half in incredible heat. But yeah, she still came out pretty good. She was just textured with a sharp tool. And the cat's complaining because it doesn't have a lap to sit on at the moment, but I guess it's going to be waiting a while. So just going to check that chocolate again, see if it's got any better. So this is how the chocolate should be. So it's brittle and a little bit like a little bit leathery. So I'll just take off the half that's set. So this is, in the time that I've been talking to you, this has been made, popped in the freezer, and let's see if I can get a nice paste out of it. So just mixing that through now, and it's coming together all right. But yeah, you can make incredibly detailed sculpts with modelling chocolate. So I've seen people do very detailed flowers. You can do, it's probably one of the better things I've found for making faces with. And the reason for that is just that you get the ability to blend seams completely. So fondant, if you lay one piece of fondant over the other, it's really hard to hide the seams. Unless you're laying kind of very wet fondant onto fondant that's dried out completely, it's almost impossible to hide seams on fondant. But on modelling chocolate, you just lay the chocolate next to the other one, hit it with a little bit of heat, or even lay your hand on it for the heat, and it comes together perfectly. So this piece here is nearly right. There's a few kind of lumpy bits in it, but it actually mixed up pretty good. So that, I'll just knead it, and it's weird to knead chocolate like with your hands, but again, it sets up really solid. So here's a piece that's been sitting around, and just with a little bit of heat, it goes to a lovely moldable paste. So this one will take a little bit more time to cure. So that's the one that I just made just now, and then once that's, I could lay it really thin and put it back in the freezer, and then take it out and re-roll it, and that would be perfect. Or I can just put it to one side, have another go at it in half an hour, and it'll be pretty much perfect, ready to go. I could work with that now, but it's just chocolate for some reason seems to work better once it's had a chance to settle and cure itself a bit. So now you can see that black has gone really black, so it's really dark now. It's no longer leaving colour on my hands. So here we go. That's pretty much it. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions, just pop them in the comments below, and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thanks, nice talking to you. Bye.